Hi, my name is Jay Patel. I am a student at UC Berkeley in Professor Labian's IEOR 190G class on the patent war relating to smartphones. This week we are covering Microsoft's role in the smartphone patent war, and I'm just going to delve right into it. So Microsoft's business strategy is the same exact business strategy they've had in the computer realm. They don't make the hardware. They outsource their hardware making to manufacturers such as Nokia, Samsung, HTC, Dell, and LG, and Acer. Whereas Microsoft provides the operating system upon which those products rely, and that's how Microsoft makes its money. So it's the same story with Windows phones. Microsoft doesn't create like a hardware Windows phone. They rely on these other manufacturers to create the physical phone, and Microsoft provides the software. What's really interesting, a point I wanted to note in the beginning of this video, was that many of the same companies that make these Windows phones also the same exact companies who make Microsoft affiliated computers and laptops and whatnot. So it's just really interesting to see the interdependency between companies. So my main point, my main opinion in this piece is that I think Microsoft is attempting to play catch up in the field that it was previously ahead in and that it's now much behind in. And Microsoft is currently relying on licensing fees, trying to take down Google, in addition to trying to revamp its entire image in order to get a hold of the smartphone market, and also to go a step further in the PC market that it currently dominates. So the first point I wanted to make is that Microsoft's main concern related to the patent war is licensing. On one hand, Microsoft has a whole bunch of licensing deals with a lot of different companies. For instance, they just recently came up with a deal on January 12th with LG to license with LG phones, LG Windows phones. So Microsoft makes much of its money based off of licensing fees. If they charge royalties on just 1,000 different things, from the major to the mundane. Like most recently, they started charging royalties upon Google's operating system. Like companies that make hardware with Google, they charge royalties on that because they claim Google relies on their own technology. So that's the first way Microsoft makes money, is through licensing fees. And then the second way is, and this is seen in how Microsoft is going after Google, is that if a company chooses not to pay Microsoft licensing fees, they use the threat of a lawsuit and patent infringement and patent misuse to get after their opponents. So the second point I wanted to make is that Microsoft has been recently relying on a war more so against Google than against Apple to get its foot in the door in the smartphone market. So not only do they have licensing fees upon the Android, but they also throw losses on their allies. And one interesting place to note is that Microsoft is suing Barnes & Noble over Nook. What's really interesting also is that Microsoft and Barnes & Noble were previously allied, especially as far as like Windows Live and Windows Live search technology goes. But now that Microsoft wants to get into the smartphone realm that it's currently not really in, they're going back on previous corporate alliances. So that's the second point I wanted to make, was that Microsoft has been relying on a war against Google and Google-related allies, because Barnes & Noble, with its Nook app, has kind of relied on Apple's Google and Android technology. Not Apple, sorry, on Google's Android technology. The third thing I wanted to mention is that Microsoft is also attempting to revamp its entire image. It's been playing catch-up in this field, and after the iPhone released after the iPhone set a standard for the industry for more simplified like menus and ways of looking at things, Microsoft has been trying to play catch-up. You can see this in Microsoft's recent innovation, Windows Metro. That's what they're trying to use for Windows 8, and that's also the same software idea that they're trying to use in Windows phones. So I think Microsoft is using these lawsuits not like Google is, or not like Google or Apple are. Like for instance, Apple is using these lawsuits to retain dominance and expand. What I think Microsoft is doing is Microsoft is attempting to slow down the others so that they can get into the market to begin with, and then they're also in addition to that, they're trying to play catch up in many other ways by revamping its image. Thank you for listening, and hope you learned something.